Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Brain Prendergast, High Five Health and Fitness. Gareth, how are you, man?
I am well, Brian. Such a pleasure to have you on the show. I love the intro, and we are in. Everyone's used to that signature intro on the show. So, welcome. Thanks for coming on board. Welcome everyone who's listening. We got another awesome show, and we're gonna dig deep into health and fitness today. I'll share a little bit about how we got connected. We got connected because I was on your podcast, Two Fit Crazies and a Microphone, back last month, and I was connected to your co-host Christine, who will also be coming on the show via CamFit Pro fitness conference that we did. We did a panel together, and there's this interconnected podcast world. And yeah, it's a very big but also very small world at the same time. And we come connected with lots of different people, and I'm very privileged and honored to have been connected with you, and I loved getting to know you on the show a little bit, so I thought it would be a great opportunity to expand the conversation. So not only are you the co-host of that show and you're producing that show, but also the owner-founder of High Five Health and Fitness, which is your corporate wellness, your personal health coaching. So we are very connected via, the industry and via podcasting. So I'd love to just chuck it over to you, Brian, to tell everyone a little bit more about kind of what you're up to and what that business looks like, and a little bit of your podcast experience, and then we'll dive into some big questions.
Absolutely. I'd love to. Thanks for having me. First and foremost, we had a blast when you were on the show with us, and it was a great conversation. And I'm looking forward to this because you're doing great stuff, Gareth. And it's just good fun, and it's an honor to be here. So what do I do? What don't I do? I think is a better question. I always say it fits under the umbrella of health and fitness and wellness. I do it. So I wear many hats, but like I said, it all fits under the same umbrella. So yes, co-host of the Two Fit Crazies and a Microphone podcast with the world-renowned Christine Conti, Wonder Woman herself. And we've been doing that for about 4 years now. But I've been in the industry for a while. Christine and I always like to say that we're recovering this or recovering that. I'm a recovering mortgage banker. I was in the mortgage industry for a long time, and I was miserable. And I drew a line in the sand and got the heck out of that. And everything was geared towards health and fitness. Some of it stemming from my background that I had just childhood and growing up. Some of it from some of the athletic endeavors that I got into as I got older. Some of it even more so from some of the rehabilitation and the exercising that I had to do to recover from some of the injuries from the athletic endeavors that I got into. It all kind of stemmed from there. So the podcast, I am also the owner of High Five Health and Fitness. This is a company that I founded about 10 years ago. While I was still in the mortgage business, I was doing both. And we do a lot of health, corporate wellness with that. I do speaking at schools through that. I do health coaching, virtual. This like virtual world that we were thrown into with COVID and the pandemic was nothing new to me. I've been doing, the Zoom sessions, health coaching for a long time, that's just like everything but the gym work. I do kind of help people do some things. I'm not always there with them. I have clients around the country, really, that I'm not always there to help them as a trainer, but it's how you sleeping, how you eating, how you living, how you thinking, all those aspects of health that get often overlooked because we just want to sweat. So that's been very good. Funny story about how I named the company that I can get into later if you're interested. And then from there I do train in the gym. As a group fitness trainer. I train. I'm an endurance athlete, so the adult endeavors that I get into is mostly distance running, endurance running, marathons, half marathons, and things like that, marathons and beyond, because you can't just run a marathon anymore. You got to go farther. So I do, I'm a USA track and field certified coach. So I do train athletes there. I help grown-ups and kids, just get a little faster, run a little bit more, and enjoy it a whole lot more too.
Nice.
In a nutshell, under the umbrella, there it is.
Yeah. Well, it's nice because it gives us a load of cool points to pull from in that, and I love the I love the touching on endurance running. So funny story, I decided with some of my clients at the beginning of the year that I was going to do a Spartan race, which I thought I had a lot of time to prepare for. And then I realized it's 2 weeks away. So I went for 2 runs this week and it was absolutely brutal. I started with I think it was 3.4 kilometers and it felt like 100. And not that I know what 100 feels like, but I can imagine. And then it wasn't so bad. And it teaches you how, when you condition your body well and you're smart, that you adapt quickly. So that was Tuesday. Thursday, I went on the same route, but I carried on and I did, I think, 4.5 in the end. And I was like, it was brutal. And then a kilometer in, I'm like, oh, this is good. I'm like, I'm Usain Bolt right now. I'm just going to run. I'm going to speed up. I'm going to get further. Anyway, so it shows you how quickly you can adapt. It'd probably been 5 years since I did any running. So,
all right.
Yeah. And I know we laughed about that when I was on the show recently. So, yeah.
Never trust the first mile. That's what we always say. Never trust that first mile. That's a warm up, right? That's why you get that oxygen deficit out of the way. We can get 10 minutes of blood flow. It's always a good thing for you.
That sounded about exactly what was happening. So we got into some cool topics. We dug into a little bit of my background when I was on the show with you recently, which was an honor to come on and be able to talk to that and have a platform to do it. I also found that it was a very safe space for me to talk about my experiences, talk about what I do on the podcast, this podcast and the other podcast I host, and we have a lot of deep conversations, and we kind of started to brush the surface a little bit on masculinity. And this is something that in the world of health and fitness and men being in the industry, and especially in group-based training, which we both are and have been for many years, it's an interesting minefield to navigate, in that masculinity. And we dug into a little bit, and I'd love to just hear a little bit of your kind of experiences over the last 10 years, and even, kind of through, your corporate, going in and changing those environments, your everyday environment, what your general experience is of other fitness professionals, other men within the gym environment, and maybe how you kind of have seen that and how it's impacted you.
I mean, I could probably do even one better and just start with myself.
Yeah.
And where I, came into it, obviously we come into the fitness industry because we want to help people. We want to change lives. We want to do all those things. And of course, I had it all figured out. I was going to do it this way, and this is how it was going to go. And until you start working with people and understanding that they're all different, and that, my way doesn't really even matter, that we kind of figure things out and get a little bit further. It's a really gruff place. I mean, fitness industry from a male perspective is all about, brawn and being as tough as a Navy SEAL. And I saw that on a magazine cover once. It's like, are you as tough as a Navy SEAL? And it was like Men's Health magazine. I was like, no, no. So putting a lot of that stuff aside and understanding that what most people, and putting my own insecurities aside, and having humbling experiences, and having, endurance, raise an athlete, as an endurance athlete, it's terribly humbling. There's times where if you're not ready, like for your Spartan, if you're not ready, like it might not go all that well, and there's no way you're going to fake it. So, arrogance and ego and all that, masculinity, all that comes with masculinity, will, rear its head at some point. So yes, I mean, we see it in advertisements. We see it in, trainers, either putting themselves on a pedestal or people putting them on a pedestal. Like, we're not worthy. This guy's our leader. He must be, completely conquerable and bulletproof and everything else, when it's just nothing further from the case. It's just far from the truth. We're all bulletproof. We all have our, inefficiencies or our deficiencies, and we all have our insecurities. And anytime we're looking to cover those up, is where we get into trouble. And that's where that masculinity stuff comes in. It's all a cover up. I mean, it's fear, it's insecurity, it's ego, it's arrogance, it's nothing like, it's some of the ingredients that we just have to weed out if we want the good stuff. Not only for ourselves. Again, I'm speaking a little bit from myself, from my perspective here, but also from, as a trainer and a health professional. If I want what's best for other people, I have to kind of get that stuff out of the way. I have, the insecurity more than anything is it hides itself. It masquerades as many things. It's like, and it's terribly unhealthy, not just mentally, because in the background, we all know it's there. We know it's there. Most of the people we're speaking with sniff it out almost instantly because they know insecurity when they see it, because they have it too. But it's also terribly unhealthy, like physically. It's like the guys who love to brag about how much they love bacon and to drink how much they drink. It's all insecurity. It's bragging for no reason. It's just terrible insecurity that gives them some sort of comfort in in certain circles that within their own skin is detrimental. It means nothing. It's a negative impact for sure.
Yeah, that's a great and much to my experience as well. Kind of going through the industry, that all those things resonate with me a lot, and places where I've been. And I loved the fear thing, and this is something that I picked up that has stuck around in my head for the last month that you said back when I was on the show, and it was that the bravado that how much do you bench, the flexing in the mirror, whatever it is, and not that there's essentially inherently anything wrong with that, but is why we do it, and we do it in such a way is because we're scared. And that's something that really sat like deep within like my soul for the last month, and I've been really thinking about my actions on a daily basis and how much of that stuff I'm doing because I'm scared, and particularly from an ego standpoint. So that really sits with me, and I know a lot of people listening are gonna pick up on that, either themselves or other men in your life that maybe see that. And what I loved about our conversation, and I think this is a good message to everyone listening, is I felt safe to drop those barriers down a little bit when we were talking. And I've had those experiences in other conversations and on the podcast, which is great. And we need to, as men, we need to do a better job of creating that place for people. And for the other people in your life, the other men in your life, whether you're whatever you identify as listening to the show, if there's men in your life that need that, like, understand that they probably need a space to feel comfortable to drop that down and dig into the deeper stuff.
No doubt about it. And I agree wholeheartedly. And I thank you for this opportunity for me to do it. Oftentimes on our show, it's the roles are reversed, and I don't really get a chance to tell my whole story a whole lot, and it's just a good opportunity. And, if you do see that bravado and you do see it out there in the wild, and, it's everywhere. I not mock or tease or anything like that, but sometimes I see people saying that and I'm like, man, this dude just needs a hug, right? Like this guy, or, this person is so insecure. And look, I get it. Like I grew up with that. I grew up, as being, sometimes it's nice to stay in the pocket. If I can lift more than you, right? Well, then I'm somehow better than you. If I can run faster than you, then somehow I'm, better than you, like on a hierarchy type of masculinity scale. So sure, like all the stuff that we do kind of leads into it. I often talk to people about making it personal. Why is that important? I ask them those questions. Why is that important? I run a lot of races, and I've said sometimes, like, if I want to, and I'll, can win and things like that. But if I want to feel good about myself, I'll go home to my kids and watch them smile as I walk in the door. Right. That's what about feeling good about yourself. Some of those other things that we do just to kind of, create the image of superiority, or just it's sometimes to make us feel good about ourselves, but really at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. We've had several conversations right now. I've never asked you your bench press PR, like so far your max,
Not
right?
very good.
Well, exactly, or whatever. It doesn't, mine isn't either. I'm a runner. It's just like, it's almost like wearing like a pelt, like you killed an animal, you put the pelt on the wall. It's like, I did that, and it's very, at the end of the day, if it's not for your own good, I just don't see it as being very beneficial to anything.
Yeah, and I'm finding to that point, I'm finding as I get, onwards in my years, so I turned 40 in a month or so, and I'm starting to really realize over the last 4 or 5 years, particularly since becoming a dad, actually, that there's a lot of reasons why, right? Like you said, you see that, oh, this is what I bench press, and then this is, this is me at 5% body fat, or whatever it is, right? Like that picture of that, what makes you worthy and valuable is what I see as being portrayed sometimes. And there are many reasons why people do it. So we're not categorizing everyone in there, but there is a lot of that in the industry. For me, I kind of look at, I'm like, yeah, that's great. But you know what I did this week? I walked my kid to school 5 days and gave her a kiss at the gate and told her I loved her, and then went on my day and went back to the business that I built to be able to do that for her. And that, for me, I'm like, that makes that value and worth in my life. Like that's why I do what I do. And that's where I think sometimes we're missing, because the ego and the masculinity gets in the way, is we're not able, often as men, and me, this is talking from experience, we're not able to really understand why we do what we do. Why do we train? Why do we do those endurance races? Why do we lift weights? Why do we do that stuff? And until we really figure that out, like I was in a constant battle of self-hate and working out because I hated myself to try and find a place where I could love myself, and realize it had nothing to do with how big my arms were or how much I could run or whatever it could be. So when we dig down to that and we figure out why, and that comes with experience, I'd love to have had that at 20, but you have to go through life a lot of the time to get it, right? So I think this is just a conversation that's going to open up maybe people's minds a little bit to dig a bit deeper and realize that when you realize that stuff, realize why that stuff matters. Like I exercise, yes, I get all those things, but what does it do? It makes me fitter and healthier and stronger and all those things that I can be a better role model to my clients, to my kid, whatever it might be. And I think we all need to understand that at a deeper level.
Without a doubt. And when I help people and when I work with people, the backbone of High Five Health and Fitness is I want to help people live longer, healthier lives. That's it. And, health, the definition of health is not fitting into the jeans or fitting into the dress or fitting into, or lifting X amount of weight. There's no benchmark or requirement for that. It's living a longer, healthier life. And sometimes some of those things will actually work against living longer and healthier. I have some friends that are bodybuilders and they can throw a car over the moon, but they're not always the healthiest cats out there. So and I've known endurance athletes, same thing. They're grinding themselves to the into the dirt. And so we kind of have to have that balance. And a lot of times, so when you look at things like it from that perspective, longer, healthier life, is how does your goals in fitness lead into that? Is it just to lift the most amount of weight possible, which is, some of those, or run as fast as possible, or, eat all the meat, like all those things, like where does it play in? And is it actually leading to you living the longest, healthiest life possible? And, having kids for me, was a great perspective, into restructuring my goals, because now it's not just me anymore. Now we got to live longer, healthier lives for them, for me too, but for them. It's important to be that role model and to have a nice stroll through to school in the morning when you could just as easily be bench pressing 300 pounds, and showing your role as a male in that, as the strong figurehead leader of the free world. It's not always the same thing. So we definitely look into that. My background, my father died very young. right? He was 41 years old when he passed away. So you're just coming up on 40, man. So I'm 46. And it was strange. My father had heart disease, and he had his first heart attack when he was 37. Way too young, wild lifestyles of the 60s, and just growing up in an Irish Catholic family where if you didn't have, the only thing more than the meat on the plate was the potatoes, and it was meat and potatoes, meat and potatoes, meat and potatoes, pretty much the whole time. And he worked his way right into heart disease, pretty damaging heart disease. The first heart attack, damaged his heart pretty well, and he was an amazing hero. Between the ages of 37 and 41, he did absolutely everything possible to regain his health. Unfortunately, the damage was done. And the second one that he had, it was probably a surprise to everyone but him. He knew what was going on. He just, held it pretty well from us. So as I was reaching those ages, I was mid 30s, and I was in corporate America. I wasn't being all the way healthy. I had a lot of my dinners came to me over the bar. That's where dinner was. And I was in my 20s. I was making money. I was out, and I was, entertaining. They called it in the corporate world. I didn't eat very well, and I wasn't as athletic as I was, because I was, playing that playbook of, all right, I've moved on from school, and now I have a job, and now I make money, and eventually I'll have a family, and I'll live vicariously through my kids' sports because my playing days are over. And, I think that that's also a role of masculinity, where that playbook that doesn't exist anywhere. I mean, it's not a reality, leads you to believe that there's like these chapters in life when it's nothing, it's nowhere near the truth. So, as I approached that age that my father passed away, I was started to really look into it. Like, how much did diet play a role? Diet plays a role in everything, right? We're not going to be very healthy if if we don't eat very well. So, how can we, how could I do for myself what I know I need to do so that I don't die at 41 and I have my kids, to leave behind. So I started looking into things. That's where I started, improving my nutritional background and fitness, and taking all the certifications and becoming a, certified in plant-based nutrition, and everything that I've done, kind of working in that arena under the umbrella, still. And, so it has an impact on me. And, and all these things that we do, I just realized that a lot of what we've been trained to do or wired to do, or, as men, is bullshit. It's all just fabricated, based on some figurehead that we're supposed to be. We're not allowed to be vulnerable. We have to get the big piece of the chicken, as Chris Rock says. We got to go out there and work hard, and be a grumpy old guy that has the kids fear as opposed to loved. And it's just a lot of it is just it doesn't make any sense to me anymore, seeing things the way that I see it now.
Yeah, it's so true. And that actually makes me, I was thinking about something else we were touching on. You touched on the kind of magazines and that, and what's out there in the world, men's health, whatever it is, and not to beat up on men's health. Don't sue me if you're listening. But there's many out there.
We hope they're listening.
We hope they are. We're getting a lot of downloads if they are. So when they portray that, and it's not just those, it's many other things and many magazines. And I think that there's a real awareness in the, let's call it the more feminine media, focused media. Okay, so we're talking, more magazines that are focused at women, more women's issues, etc. And there's a big focus on that in the industry as to how they project things and how they talk to people. And I don't know that there's enough awareness of how that stuff also affects men. And I saw there's been, I don't know if you've seen it recently on social media, but Jonah Hill, the actor, came out and made a really bold statement, and I'm really going over that in my head quite a lot to really think about how I feel about the statement. And for everyone listening who hasn't seen it, basically what he said is, it doesn't do anyone any favors when you comment on my body, whether it's good or bad. So just don't. And now I'm paraphrasing that. I don't actually know what he said, but it's something like that. He was saying it doesn't matter if you say I look good or I look overweight or whatever, or you're posting a picture. And obviously he's scrutinized through the media because he's a famous actor. And I'm kind of like, I really struggle with that. So, completely transparent. Like in my experience, if somebody was to comment on, because I attach a lot, I will openly admit I outsource a lot of my worth and value to people's opinion, and I'm working on that as a person. But when I look at that, I'm like, if somebody commented to say, you look really, really good, or you leaned out, or you look a bit bigger, or whatever, even if you look a bit healthier, like whatever it might be, is he was basically saying it. He didn't want anyone to comment on that, and for me, I'm like, I don't know, like that stuff is I've always associated that as a good thing. But if someone was to say, you look a bit flabby, I'd probably be mortified. So maybe I have to accept one with the other. However, I'm struggling with it. I'm waffling on, but I just wondered what your opinion was on that statement.
Yeah, it's a tough spot. I mean, anybody, we're sensitive, we're sensitive to things like that. And it's the person who says, I don't care what people think about me or anything like that. That's bullshit. I apologize. I said that twice now.
Go ahead.
Okay, good. All right. I like cursing. That's part of my masculinity.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's, it's nonsense. Of course you're sensitive to that. And of course, a guy like that who's had, issues with weight in his life, and now he's skinny, and and everybody praises him for this and that, he's still the same person inside that that meat suit that that he's wearing, and it's got to be hard for him. I actually know somebody who knows him and Jonah Hill, and not well, and he's when Jonah Hill was heavy, he had women around him, and he always said these women wouldn't be around me if I wasn't in movies. And that's my friend told me that about him. And it's a terribly insecure person, because we all are. And look, at the same rate, you wouldn't be having me on your podcast if I was the 300-pound trainer, or maybe you would, I don't know. But, it's like, a lot of it comes within this industry. We do have to play the role a little bit, and, for better or worse. And it's not always easy. And yeah, people always say, well, you probably don't eat that, or you probably don't do this. And I can show them pictures from when I was getting my dinners over the bar stool, while I was on the bar stool, and they're not pretty. I wasn't an endurance athlete right then, and it's good. And sometimes I do show them that, because it does let down that wall around me, and show people that I do understand perhaps where they're coming from. But I mean, look at all of it. Look at the marketing. Look at the marketing for your local gyms. The trainers aren't normal people. They're these Adonises that look like they're out of American Gladiators, and that's part of their marketing. It's not, I have seen some improvements on that. We've done some podcasts on improvement of that. Inclusion is a very, a buzzword that goes on right now. And inclusion isn't just about, it's about everything. It's not just, race or color or anything, that most people associate it with. It's about people walking into a facility or a gym and feeling comfortable, and not walking into a gym and having it be boot camp or, challenge, the challenge. Most people aren't ready for that. The people that need health and fitness the most aren't ready for those things. So, it is. The body image stuff it works for us just the same as it does the people that we help.
Yeah, it's so true. And, I'm definitely switching my mindset on that a little bit. And that's where I think I struggle with my stand on that statement, because somebody actually asked me and I didn't have an answer. And I said, honestly, don't know. I don't know if I agree with that.
Or best answer ever.
Right? I'm like, I don't know. I don't. And I need to figure it out. And I know I need to do my own work on that. But I'm definitely personally, I think one of the big things we can control in life is our judgments. And there's not many things. And when I see others I sometimes struggle with a snap judgment reaction based on what's been imprinted on me in my life as a trainer, as a kid, a fat kid that went into health and fitness and, turned that corner in my life, because that stuff's deep rooted in me. Right. And, and
Absolutely.
I think sometimes it comes from a place of care. Sometimes it comes from a place of complete judgment. And I know that, and I know when it's happening, but it's hard, right? Because then when I see things like that, I'm like, well, I quite like a compliment, but I wouldn't like it the other way. And maybe I don't see it from the person that is maybe struggling to gain weight, like that 6'4" kid that can't put weight on, or the person that's gone through an eating disorder. They're not going to see it like that. Somebody comments like, "Oh, you're really, really good. You look really lean." That could be the trigger that pushes them back into their eating disorder. So I have to flip my mindset on that. And it was just a good awakening for me this week to see that and understand that I don't have a stance, and there's a reason I don't have a stance. And I think I have to figure out what that is, if that makes any sense.
Absolutely. And I found it very helpful to ask people how they feel.
Yeah.
How do you feel? Hey, how you feeling? And if they're feeling good, they'll tell me they're feeling good. And if they're not, they'll give me something that we can work on. And a lot of times, again, this just purely aesthetic stuff can be triggers for, it's that view of that they have of themselves and their mirror. One thing I always say to people, I said, see people the way that you see yourself in the good mirror, right? Everybody's got that good mirror in their house, right? The good mirror, where the lighting's just right and you look real good in that mirror. Mine's downstairs bathroom. I got one. And see yourself how you see yourself the way that or see yourself the way that your kids see you. Your kids see you as a very healthy, fun person, who's who exercises and loves it and gets sweaty at times, and they see that, they're not seeing the struggle of you trying to maintain a certain image in order to gain more clients or make more money or appease the fitness gods of advertising and marketing and whatever, because they don't exist. I have a group of kids that I worked this summer with. I had them twice a week, and they are from the local high school that was it's a life skills program, and they're autistic kids. A lot of them on a spectrum of some sort. I say autistic as a general term. They have different things. There was one child had something called Fragile X, which is just another genetic disorder that would give them autistic-like qualities. And I had them in twice a week, and it was the highlight of my week, no doubt about it. There was 12 of them. They all came from the school, so it was the summer program. There was schools that was out for the summer, but they all had aides that would help them. They were all there, and I'd see them for an hour twice a week. And I didn't hold back on them in any way. Like, we pushed sleds, we did battle ropes, we did, jumping jacks and slamming medicine balls and, really good stuff, all appropriate. It's a lot of body weight squats and things like that. But, and we have in the gym, we've got, rowing machines and ski ergs and bikes and things like that. So, all things that they would, I'd never give them anything that they weren't capable of, but it was just really just to kind of get them huffing and puffing a little bit and moving. And they loved it. It was amazing to see their reaction to it. It was amazing to hear the teachers and the aides' reaction to their behaviors before and after. They loved coming. It was an amazing time for them. It was like life-changing for me. It was just nothing but good. And what I got from them was I would ask them how they feel. Now, these are autistic kids. They feel everything. That's all they do. They don't have the societal impacts or judgments or things like that. They're not there to be skinny or yoked or diesel or jacked or anything, or to become anything other than like feel good. And it really made them feel really good, and they would cheer each other on, and it was just like, and it's amazing because this is a population that just isn't impacted in any way by society's view of them. right? They're already quirky. They kind of know that stuff, that at least from my view of it, they kind of know that they're different. Some of them thrive in that. Some of them are shy about it, but they're not doing things to lose weight. They're not doing things to be thin or to be huge or anything like that. And what they're getting from it, I'd ask them how they feel. They say, I feel good. I have more energy today. Right. I feel good. The parents at home, they'd say they've been sleeping very well. The school, they'd say that they're more focused, right? They'd stay on task. It's just the term. And I looked at it and I said, it's amazing that these kids, this population is experiencing the true benefits of exercise, that they're allowing themselves to feel it. They're allowing themselves to experience it and enjoy it because there's no societal standard for them to adhere to. That's the last thing on their mind. And because of that, they're getting every single thing that if I had an adult come into the gym and I said, listen, man, you're going to be focused more. You're going to feel good. You're going to be smiling. You're going to be happy. You're going to sleep better. You're going to eat a little bit better was another one of the terms. You're going to be able to stay on task. All these benefits of exercise that are completely overlooked by a quote unquote normal person, that because they're fishing for something that may or may not ever happen for them. They may never be super fit, and it was really, really interesting for me to see, totally life-changing. And, leave it to the autistic to teach us how to live,
Yeah. Oh my God, what an amazing lesson. And it's so true that I think this is credit to you as a coach as well. And this is a good lesson for anyone listening. We have many professionals and fitness consumers that listen to the show, is you have to, if you can dial into those subjective things, so how somebody feels, because having more energy is different for everybody. But the problem we've got is that we're, like, to your point, we're so fixed on other things, right? 5% body fat's 5% body fat. 150 pounds is 150 pounds. There's no subjective thing in there. And, what I talk a lot about on my channels and what we're, big in encouraging within, what we do in the Nock Academy is that you have to it's all about consistency. And to your point, if you feel good and you feel like you have more energy, guess what? That reward of how you feel is, I'm going to do this again because you know what? I was a better professional. I was a better parent. I was a better partner, whatever it was. That happened because of how I felt at the end of it. So I'm going to keep going. And that goes right full circle back to something I said at the beginning, which was a lot of my exercise habits were rooted in, it was in self-loathing and hatred. And when we're doing that, there's no consistency being built, right? Because you miss one workout or you don't want to do it that day because it's really hard, because you're in your head, it's kind of torture and punishment. But we flip that and suddenly we start to build consistency. And shocker, everybody listening, guess what happens when you're consistent with something? The muscle gain and the weight loss and the things that come as a result of what you're doing.
The byproducts. Yep, no doubt about it. And again, like you nailed it. It comes back down to feeling. I mentioned earlier that I speak in schools, and one of the lectures that I have is feel your emojis, right? And we've dumbed it down so much, right? We've dumbed it down so much that we now have pictures, right? Emojis to describe how we feel, right? So we've taken, we use pictures to describe the words that are described how we feel, right? So, we use the picture to describe the word. I'm mad, and then you got this emoji and all that stuff. But what does mad feel like, right? Like, what does it feel like? And usually when I'll ask them, oh, you're mad. What do you feel like? And they'll say, well, I'm angry. I said, no, that's just another word. Like, that's just another word you just gave me there. And it's another emoji. Like, what does it feel like? Where do you feel it? Is it in your chest? Is it in your belly? Is it in your sternum? Is it in your head? Like, where is it? And feel this stuff. And, again, the autistic kids, they feel everything. That's the whole thing. So, like, if I asked, a guy comes in here, to the gym and he says, I'm pissed off. Oh, yeah. What does that feel like? He says, well, I'm angry. I said, no. You just, you just gave me two things that are just words, right? What does it feel like? Where do you feel it? Because if you can feel it, you can recognize it. You can actually say, when I'm pissed off, I'll stand up real quick. I feel it right about here, right in my little sternum here. It's just below my chest bone. Like I can feel like a swirling hurricane of heat that goes in there. It's like butterflies in the stomach. What the hell is that? We've called them butterflies, but there's actually a feeling that's going on in there. And we can kind of understand like what will make us feel that way, what will make us angry, and what does angry feel like. This is all health coaching stuff that I get into with them. And once we can kind of do that, well, then we can know, like you said, the reaction to exercise is often feeling good, right? So we know what makes it happen. We know the ingredients. We can go to that as many times as we want, as long as it still makes us feel good. Sometimes overdoing it won't. So, like you have to kind of actually sit and feel your emotions instead of just putting a picture on it and saying, this is how I feel today. And it's something puking or, eyes X'd out or whatever the heck it is. A little bit of a tangent there, but I think that it, really what it comes down to is that we're so wrapped up into our masculinity, the image, the image that we portray, that we just bury just about everything else. We don't work out for those good feelings. We work out because I'm on, it's like I'm on trial. It's like I have to uphold these values or else I'm a failure. It's nonsense.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of reevaluation there, and to my point is figuring out why it's important to you. And that's kind of, anyone that is a coach, a trainer, a fitness professional, you would have dabbled no doubt in motivational interviewing in some capacity, and that's where we really get into that. And I love the concept of the 7 whys. And people don't like it. It's uncomfortable because when people ask you and they I want to do this, why? And then why and why, and basically the theory is you ask why 7 times, you'll get a bit closer to the deep root of it. So I think we could all ask ourselves 7 whys or even more to dig down through those layers and be okay with it. And you have to you got to portray that stuff, and it's not just down to health and fitness, it's everything. Like if we can express that and be authentic, we're gonna sit in a much more comfortable place. And to your point, those emotions that we don't love will likely crop up a little bit less, because me for sure, like a bit of a people pleaser, a bit of stuck in that, like I need to look a certain way to be a fitness professional as I'm bothered what other people think. And there's a lot of anxiety for me rooted in that, because you're constantly worried, right? And I don't want to post a video there because, I don't know, my gut's hanging over my shorts. I don't know, whatever it is, right? Whereas I'm like, really, does it matter? No, it doesn't. And but it's hard to, then you have to go through that. And that's where you give that self your motivational interviewing. You say, okay, why am I bothered about this? Because I'm bothered about what people think. Does that make me, a poor fitness professional? No. Does that make me less of a person? No. Does it mean that maybe I slipped off on my, eating and exercise routine? Yes, but doesn't everybody? So it just makes me more human. It makes me a better coach. It makes me a better business owner, like everything. So that's kind of how I deal with it. That's my kind of process. And I think that will resonate with a lot of people. But it like you said, it full loops back around to our ego and that what's imprinted on us from the world.
And that you nailed it right there when you said, does it make me better? Right? Like, does it make me better? All these choices that we make, all these things are there's always a choice to be made in anything, whether it's the food we eat or the decisions we make or the exercises that we do. There's always these things. Is it going to make me better, or is it going to make me worse? Is it going to help me live a longer, healthier life, or is it going to take away from that? Is it, like in some cases, is it going to keep me alive, or is it going to kill me? All these things are always there, and it's okay to look at things in there, because these choices are everywhere. They're constant. It's all day long. And you really just kind of see it in a way. I had something that I was going to say right there, but you see it in a way that in 12-step programs they call it taking your inventory, right? In religious programs they call it like confession, right? You look and you dig deep and you like tell something that you did that wasn't really good. It's very cathartic. It's just in a self-examination where you can kind of look at yourself and say, okay, I don't like the way things are going here. I'm going to change it. That's not, and ego gets in the way of that, and arrogance gets in the way of that, and masculinity gets in the way of that, and I can't be vulnerable, and all those things, and all that nonsense that Lewis Howes, he's got a great podcast. I forget what it's called exactly, but it's like the School of
Oh yeah, I forget
something.
the name. Yeah,
but he calls it the Mask of Masculinity, right? The Mask of Masculinity. And that's what it is, and it has buried more people, men particularly, right? And by the way, men, women know all about you already, right? You're not that slick. The women have got you sniffed out from far away. They know when you're insecure. They know when you do these things, and your macho bravado and your machismo, as they say in the Latin communities, is, you're well exposed. Don't worry. There are these things that don't help you live the longer, healthier life. They don't have you live, just be better. So just think about that. Inventory yourself. Ask other people. Ask the 7 whys. Get to the bottom of it. Why is it important? And usually you'll get to something that is farther away from their thinking, that they think the way that they have to be than it is.
Yeah, and I think be okay with that too, right? Because when you dig down, you don't always find the answer you want. So, it's not the one you think it's going to be. That's definitely where I'm at in my life, and you have to be okay with that and embrace that, and say, this is why I'm, I figured it out, or I figured it out right now anyway. It might change. So I think that's important, to be okay with that. It's not to dig down and then say, well, that's not really what I want to be or who I want to project, so I'm going to, that's not going to get you on the path you want to be on. And I think to kind of summarize that, it's important to say that whoever's listening right now, and whatever you're taking from the episode, is, I also think it's important to do you and do it the way you want to do it. Like, we've obviously picked out certain areas of the industry and the certain things that we do in the industry. So whether you're an endurance athlete, you're a bodybuilder, you're a whatever you are, doesn't matter. We've used those examples a lot, so I'll use those. It's okay to do those things, and I think that's important too, to remember, but you have to be doing it for the right reason for you to have any kind of fulfillment from it. Because like I said, if it's driven in self-loathing, what's going to happen is you're going to continue to do it for that reason, and then you're just going to self-loathe more. So it's not going to get you, like, you're searching for some destination that's you're never going to get to. So you got to figure out why you're doing it. So it's okay to do those things. And I don't like to hate on any one particular thing other than, bullshit fads and myths, which you can definitely hate on them. But in the sense that
that's
the realm
another
of,
episode.
Yeah, isn't it just? Is there's definitely benefits from lifting weights and, building muscle, and there's benefits from running, and there's benefits from other types of cardio and whatever else. It's just finding the deep root of why you're doing that. So do you, but do it for the right reason, I think is the overriding important statement.
I would even frame it just slightly different from the way that you did it. Instead of doing it so it's not self-loathing, instead of doing it as, as punishment for the last thing you ate or any of that stuff, do it with love.
Yeah.
Just do it with love. Do it because you love yourself. Do it because you love the people around you. Do it because you love the activity, and if you don't, and it's torture, and it's, it's just a means to an end, then, get out, like I did the mortgage business. I made more money then sometimes than I do now, but I just wasn't in love. I didn't love myself then. It was a bad spot for me, and be willing to move and change and do it with love, no matter what it is, all of it.
Absolutely. And I think, this will talk a little bit to, it would exclude certain people, but, parents listening, we're both parents, and a lot of people we have, our niche market is busy parents and professionals. So we're talking to our audience right now. This is something I posted recently on social media, and a lot of people, it got a lot of traction and a lot of feedback, was show the same love and care you do for your kids to yourself. And that
Absolutely.
goes back around to what you said, right? Like, straight back to that is, do it from a place of love. The reason you don't give up on your kids, the reason why you're committed to, I don't know, getting them up and getting them ready and getting them to school on time, or whatever it might be, like, show that same care and commitment. You're doing that for a reason. You're doing it because you care. You're aware of how you speak to them, and you're aware of, you're spending money to put them in activities, so they're getting the outlet they need like give yourself that same grace. Yeah, and that's something I'm learning again as a parent, and that will speak to a big part of our audience. So yeah, show yourself that, and I think we'll all go on that path to fulfillment
I
a
love
little
it.
bit more successfully.
I love it. Goes for the self-talk too. You know, you wouldn't talk to anyone else the way you talk to yourself oftentimes. So, treat
Get
yourself
punched
real.
in the mouth probably if you did.
Well, that's the truth. Yeah. And like you said, if they did it to your kids, you'd punch them in the mouth. You know, if someone talked to your kids the way you talk to yourself sometimes, it wouldn't go so well for them. So yeah, figure it out, sort it out, make the mistakes, keep moving, learn from them, and do it all with love.
Absolutely. Look, I got one more thing we need to because I'm now intrigued. I wrote it down and I'm intrigued.
All right.
Before we wrap up, I want to know the story behind naming the business to
Oh,
lighten
it's
up,
good.
lighten up the mood. Hopefully, lighten up the mood. I don't know the story,
It's
so we'll see.
it's great. So like the high five is like the international sign of good job, right? It's about feeling good. It's everything. It was actually started in baseball. I think they said in like the 1960s, where some guy came across and they scored a run and they high fived each other. But I was dropping my kids off at preschool, like a daycare school, and I was dropping my one son off. And one day I walked in there, and there were young kids. They were, I think, 2 and 3 years old at the time. And there was one boy who just didn't want to be there. He was crying. It was drop off. His mom had left, and he was struggling. Like, I saw it like 3 days in a row. I get there, and this little boy was crying, and so I went over and I said, give me a high five. I said, let me have a high five. So I was dropping my son off. This little boy, Diego was his name actually, and he was a little Latino boy. So I actually said, dame cinco, give me five, and he gave me five, and he kind of smiled and just kind of went back on his way. Next day I show up, and Diego's there again, and he's crying again. He misses his mom. They were doing the whole thing where like the mom just drops him off, gets in the room, and like has to leave because she didn't want to prolong it. You rip the Band-Aid off. And so same thing. He comes up, he gets his high five, he kind of smiles. The next day, my son is like, are you going to give Diego the high five? Are you going to give Diego the high five? I said, yeah, if he needs it, I'm definitely here for him. And I walk in, and Diego is there with another kid, and they both want high fives now, and they like expecting this high five. And then my son is there. So I give out 3 high fives, and they're happy. They go play. The day after that, there's like 10 kids there getting their high fives. And I got a little routine where I kind of hit my head and I make pretend like they're the strongest kid in the world. And, my wife calls me a clown, and I'm fun at birthday parties. But and then like by the end of a couple weeks later, the whole classroom is lined up for their morning high five. And I apologized to the teacher, because here I am, my teaching's a hard job, and I'm breaking up their classroom, and I'm, distracting everybody from doing what they're doing. It's early at drop off, so there's just really some playtime. And so I said, I apologized to her, and she says, no. She says, it's fantastic. She goes, it makes them feel good. And that, it's just like, it just kind of was like a simple gesture. And then, of course, as High Five Health and Fitness, I have my high five of health and fitness, which is really simple. If you adhere to them, I use it in the corporate settings. I use it with all my clients, and it is move well, right? It's eat well. It's think well. All right. It's R well. R is confusing, but R is rest, relaxation, reboot, rejuvenate, just get that break. And then the last one is, the fifth one is connect well. So connect well, meaning your relationships, whether it's a relationship with nature or your spiritual practice, or your relationships even with your food, or, just connect well with everybody, and make sure you do have people in your life that can help you along, that love you, and if not, then be somebody who loves other people, and just, make those connections, because that's a very, very, very important aspect of health that's often overlooked, because we're too busy working out and doing, crazy stuff. And the other thing with that is the operative word there is well, right? It doesn't say, eat to perfection or work out to, move to perfection or think with perfection. Just do it well, just be better than most of the times. And I think that if you're just kind of above, the median on that for most of your life, you're going to experience a lot of the things that we're looking for out of health and wellness.
Yeah. I love that. I love it's a great story. And the high five thing is so important. And, it can be, especially in the group training world, it can definitely be sometimes it can be a bit, for me personally experience, it can be a bit cringy. But what I realized a few years back is that it's exactly that. It makes people feel good. And, you have to step away from me and my cool trainer demeanor, and you have to get in there and do those things sometimes, even if you feel a little uncomfortable with it. And it came for me because I read something, and I can't remember the exact stats, so I'll paraphrase it, but it was about Steve Nash and how he's been voted as the most influential teammate ever in basketball. And apparently he gives on average something like 500 high fives during the pre-game, the game, after the game. And he was voted by all his teammates, all these people in the NBA, for being the most influential player. And that just speaks volumes to exactly what you said. It makes people feel good, and that makes you influential as a coach, as a parent, as a role model. Like, it doesn't matter what environment you're in, you've got to find something that connects people, that makes them feel good, and then that makes you influential in impacting them in a positive manner.
I love it. Yeah, no doubt. And again, it works for me too. I don't have to eat to perfection. I don't have to do all those things. I can give myself a high five, and if I kind of live and adhere to those little little columns or pillars, then things are going to be all right. And I love Steve Nash, and he was a great teammate, and he's a great coach, and he's a 2-time MVP. And I always said that I'm a Yankees fan, and the first one up on the steps every time high five was Derek Jeter. He was the first one to be as happy about the successes of others as he is about his own. And, there's something to be said for that. And, it's something to really stick to. And look, these formulas are there. They're there, but they're just often buried. A bunch of the rubbish that, is often made us feel like is the requirements that aren't further from the truth. So this is great.
Love it. Well, this has been a fantastic conversation. I know a lot of people will get impact from it. I've written notes down. I got some things to think about. So hopefully that lands and resonates with many people listening. So just a little thank you for coming on. Thank you for your time. I appreciate you, Brian, and just the knowledge and the wisdom and your mindset that you bring to the conversations we've had. So I'm massively grateful, and want to just hand it over to you if you've got any last things you want to say, any last pearls of wisdom for the listeners.
No, just really, if it doesn't, there's a saying in the Army, if when in doubt, don't. When in doubt, usually somebody will say do the other, but when in doubt, don't. If it doesn't make sense to you, if you're not feeling it, if it just doesn't jive with, with what you got going on, then don't. And, it's a choice. It's an option. There's no serious pearl there of wisdom or anything like that. But, listen to yourself. They call it your gut for a reason, your gut intuition. Trust your gut, because most of the time that's where you're going to feel it. Do just that. If it doesn't make sense and it doesn't feel like it's the right thing to do, then find something else to do that feels better.
Yeah, it's a hell yes or a hell no.
That's right. It's either a yeah or a meh, right?
Yeah.
In the texting world, it's a MEH, meh. I don't do those. I try not to do those anymore.
I love it. Well, again, thank you for coming on. Thanks for sharing with everyone today. Thank you for listening, everyone, for tuning into the show. We hope you got a lot from the episode, and I know you will have done. If you did find something, that pearl of wisdom, that one thing that made you maybe flip the way you approach your health and fitness, the way you think, maybe the way you move, the way you select those, those movements and activities in your life, that's great. What I'll ask you to do, if you did find something valuable, share it with someone you love and care about, and let this conversation impact even more people, because that's truly what we're all about in the Nock Academy. I know it's what Brian's all about, and all our guests are, and everybody we have on the show. So we appreciate it. If you can head over and leave us a rating or a review on Apple, it goes a massive way to getting the podcast out to more people, and we'd really, really appreciate that support. And please reach out to the show, connect with us, head over to our Facebook page. It is right at the top of the show notes. Jump in there, let us know what you want to talk about. We're running a cool feature right now called Fitness Fads. So if you have a fitness fad that you want us to talk about, me and Nikki have great fun opening a bottle of wine at the weekend and just absolutely going to town on fitness fads. So if you've got any equipment or fitness fads, throw them in the Facebook page, because we're going to build out episode 2 of that, of the fitness fad review. And it's quite entertaining to record and hopefully entertaining to listen to. Apart from that, everyone listening, thank you. Brian, thank you. And we will catch you on the next episode.